Good evening and welcome to our daily devotional reading. I hope you had a good day. I hope you are feeling well. Ready to rest if not rested. And ready to listen to Plato. Let's do so. Stranger, you follow my case close at heels. Theaetetus, for the right method I conceive will be to call into our presence the dualistic philosophers and to interrogate them. Come, we will say, ye who affirm that hot and cold, or any other two principles are the universe. What is this term which you apply to both of them? And what do you mean when you say that both and each of them are? How are we to understand the word are, to be? Upon your view, are we to suppose that there is a third principle over and above the other two? Three in all, and not two. For clearly you cannot say that one of the two principles is being, and yet attribute being equally to both of them. For if you did, whichever of the two is identified with being will comprehend the other, and so they will be one and not two. Theaetetus, very true, stranger. But perhaps you mean to give the name of being to both of them together. Quite likely. Then, friends, we shall reply to them, the answer is plainly that the two will still be resolved into one. Most true. So this is the sign for fire. This is the sign for earth. There's the triangle. Do I get money now? The two are one. Theaetetus, most true, stranger. Since then we are in a difficulty, please to tell us what you mean when you speak of being, for there can be no doubt that you always from the first understood your own meaning, whereas we once thought that we understood you, but now we are in a great strait. Please to begin by explaining this matter to us, and let us no longer fancy that we understand you, when we entirely misunderstand you. There will be no impropriety in our demanding an answer to this question, either of the dualist or of the pluralist. Theaetetus, certainly not. Stranger. And what about the assertors of the oneness of the all? Must we not endeavor to ascertain from them what they mean by being? By all means. Let them answer this question. One, you say, alone is. Yes, they will reply. Theaetetus, true. Stranger. And there is something which they call being. Theaetetus, yes, stranger. And is being the same as one, and do they apply two names to the same thing? Theaetetus, What will be their answers, stranger? Stranger, it is clear, Theaetetus, that he who asserts the unity of being will find a difficulty in answering this, or, for that matter, any question. Theaetetus, why so? Stranger, to admit of two names and to affirm that there is nothing but unity is surely ridiculous. Theaetetus, certainly. Stranger, and equally irrational to admit that a name is anything. How so? To distinguish the name from the thing implies duality. Theaetetus, yes. Stranger, and yet he who identifies the name with a thing will be compelled to say that it is the name of nothing. Or if he says that it is the name of something, even then the name will only be the name of the name and of nothing else. True? Stranger, and the one will turn out to be only one of one, and being absolute unity will represent a mere name. Certainly. And would they say that the whole is other than the one that is, or the same with it? Theaetetus, to be sure they would. And they actually say so. Stranger, if being is a whole, as Parmenides sings, the other translation has says, I like the sing. Every way like unto the fullness of a well-rounded sphere, evenly balanced from the center on every side, and must needs be neither greater nor less in any way, neither on this side nor on that. Then being has a center and extremes, and having these also must have parts. Theaetetus, true. Stranger, yet that which has parts may have the attribute of unity in all the parts, and in this way being all and a whole may be one. Certainly. But that of which this is the condition cannot be absolute unity. Why not? Because according to right reason, that which is truly one must be affirmed to be absolutely indivisible. Theaetetus, certainly. But this indivisible, if made up of many parts, will contradict reason. I understand. Stranger. Shall we say that being is one and a whole because it has the attribute of unity? Or shall we say that being is not a whole at all? Theaetetus. That is a hard alternative to offer. Stranger. Most true, for being, having a certain sense the attribute of one, is yet proved not to be the same as one, and the all is therefore more than one. Theaetetus. Yes. Stranger. And yet if being be not a whole through having the attribute of unity, and there be such a thing as an absolute whole, being lacks something of his own nature. Certainly. Upon this view again, being, having a defect of being, will become not being. True. And again, the all becomes more than one, for being and the whole will each have their separate nature. Yes. But if the whole does not exist at all the previous difficulties remain the same. And there will be the further difficulty that besides having no being, being can never have come into being. Oh, man. Why so? Stranger. Because that which come into being always comes into being as a whole, so that he who does not give whole a place among beings cannot speak either of essence or generation as existing. Theaetetus. Yes, that certainly appears to be true. Stranger. Again, how can that which is not a whole have any quantity? For that which is of a certain quantity must necessarily be the whole of that quantity. Exactly. And there will be innumerable other points, each of them causing infinite trouble to him who says that being is either one or two. Theaetetus. The difficulties which are dawning upon us prove this, for one objection connects with another, and they are always involving what has proceeded in a greater and worse perplexity. Stranger. We are far from having exhausted the more exact thinkers who treat of being and not being. But let us be content to leave them then, and proceed to view those who speak less precisely. And we shall find as the result of all that the nature of being is quite as difficult to comprehend as that of not being. Theaetetus. Then now we will go to the others. Stranger. There appears to be a sort of war of giants and gods going on amongst them. They are fighting with one another about the nature of essence. Theaetetus, how is that? Stranger. Some of them are dragging down all things from heaven and from the unseen to earth. And they literally grasp in their hands rocks and oaks. Of these they lay hold and obstinately maintain that the things only which can be touched or handled have being or essence, because they define being and body as one. And if anyone else says that what is not a body exists, they altogether despise him, and will hear of nothing but body. Theaetetus. I have often met with such men, and terrible fellows they are. Stranger. Now, Theaetetus. Stranger. And that is the reason why their opponents cautiously defend themselves from above, out of an unseen world, mightily contending that true essence consists of certain intelligible and incorporeal ideas. The bodies of the materialist, which by them are maintained to be the very truth, they break up into little bits by their arguments, and affirm them to be not essence but generation and motion. Between the two armies, Theaetetus, there is always an endless conflict raging concerning these matters. Theaetetus, true. Stranger. Let us ask each party in turn to give an account of that which they call essence. Theaetetus. How shall we get it out of them? Stranger. With those who make being to consist in ideas, there will be less difficulty, for they are civil people enough. But there will be very great difficulty, or rather an absolute impossibility, in getting an opinion out of those who drag everything down to matter. Shall I tell you what we must do? Theaetetus, what? Stranger. Let us, if we can, really improve them. For if this is not possible, let us imagine them to be better than they are, and more willing to answer in accordance with the rules of argument. And then their opinion will be more worth having. For that which better men acknowledge has more weight than that which is acknowledged by inferior men. Moreover, we are no respecters of persons, but seekers after truth. Theaetetus. Very good. We are no respecters of persons, but seekers after truth. Thus far our scripture of the evening. Part of me just wants to burst out laughing hysterically, because that seems like the only reasonable response. The game has not changed, has it? It is the same game we play. It is the same game. The giants and the gods, I like that analogy. And maybe there's a god giant who can rule them all. A giant god, no, a god giant, a godly giant. So I'm going to start at the end and move to the beginning, because that's freshest in our minds. Being as body materialists or physicalists nowadays, then breaking up the bodies into empty space, into parts which is filled with empty space, which feels like also a physicalist position, actually, because that is atoms and its physics. The conversation I have foreseen that Alex had, he had with someone who claims to be a physicalist and a psychist at the same time. I will have to watch it again. I very much had the feeling after watching it that I still do not know what consciousness is. I probably will continue to have that feeling, but why not watch it again? And he said he will link a paper that the man wrote. So let's hope. That might be a true Platonic response, because as far as I know, Plato found a way to combine the one and the many. I'm not seeing it yet, but maybe I'm blind. Oh, I had to laugh at a certain point. Why does anything exist? Really, really, you're gonna throw me with that question, Plato, this early in the race? I think I'm just gonna say no comment. I'm just gonna let it at no comment. I do not have the philosophical know-how to respond to that coherently. But it is a good question. I wrote down, must the one be indivisible? I don't know why. And is a name really a thing? Can there not be two names for the same thing? And being that which is fundamental. Interesting. I wrote down the myth of Sophia and how her desire to know the one, the all, the unknowable, was the cause of all being as we know it, creation. But that may be something for behind closed doors. Why are we engaging with these questions? What's up with mankind that we've been asking these questions for 2,500 years and more? Does it boil down to the question, who am I? What am I? Which can also be stated, and I think it's mostly felt as simply, what the fuck? Because we're thrown into this existence, and it's extraordinary and it's beautiful. But what the fuck, right? And that's why every generation asked it of themselves anew. And that's maybe why it's not about coming to the answers. It's about the quest, about searching, about feeling into it. Loving your existence so much that you desire to understand it. Being madly in love with being or non-being, whichever it might be. Because in the end, we are indeed seekers of truth. Lovers of beauty. And good. I'm hesitant if I should speak to a statement or if I should just let you be. I will just let you be. May the spirit of Sophia be with you.